Top secret Nazi research projects, human experimentation, radioactive meteors, teleportation, and futuristic alien weaponry. This genre of pulpy sci-fi is what ended up being the identity of the Call of Duty Zombies mode. The first 3 maps that came out were relatively grounded, as silly as that seems to say for a game with zombies in it. They took place in an airfield bunker, or a time period accurate asylum, or some shacks in a jungle. The 4th map in the series, the final map that would come out for World at War, threw out this basic aesthetic in favor of committing hard to this campy style, and it resulted in one of the most memorable maps of the series, and one that some, to this day, still say is one of the best maps ever released. Riese.
Goodbye, Dr. Maxis.
All of the other environments in World at War, both campaign and zombies, were these realistic, grungy, gray and brown World War II battlefields. Riese was a standout with its bright lights on the futuristic-looking technology of the teleporters, which was a culmination of the aesthetic hinted at by the ray gun and the Wunderwaffe in past maps. And that made sense because radios hidden throughout the map told a full narrative explaining how basically everything in this universe started at the Riese facility. The lore of this map pulls heavily from real-life conspiracy theories about secret Nazi black projects like Project Riese and Die Glocke. These pretty out-there theories hypothesize that during World War II, Germany was researching both occult and very science fiction ways to help the war effort. So, following in that campy 50s B-movie tradition, the radios on Riese told the tragedy of a secret Nazi research division, Group 935, headed by Drs. Richthofen and Maxis, tasked with researching the effects of the newly discovered element 115. There started to be infighting between the scientists as they wanted to put their limited resources into different areas of the research, from teleportation to weaponry to super soldiers, which ended up just being the zombies. Ultimately, Richthofen, who started out sounding intelligent and stable, devolved over the course of these radio messages to sound more and more like the psychopath caricature that he was as a playable character, and he betrayed Maxis by sending him and his daughter through a teleporter that they knew was malfunctioning. All of this was just side content, 100% missable if you were just playing the game as intended, just killing zombies. And that became a staple of the series going forward. Basically, as little as possible story information is given to the player up front. Following the plot behind the game requires you to do more and more obscure and convoluted side quests. And again, none of this was necessary. You could enjoy the gameplay loop of just killing zombies, getting higher rounds, higher points, seeing those numbers go up without interacting with any of it. But finding those Easter eggs helps flesh out the world and explain context for those players who are interested. Like this map explaining who some of the playable characters are, or where the zombies and hellhounds come from, or even who that demonic announcer voice was. And in the spirit of Easter eggs, this map actually had the first scavenger hunt style Easter egg that the series became known for. Like almost everyone that came after it, the fly trap requires you to first pack-a-punch a gun, and then you can find a number of items hidden around the map. And that right there is what Riese is actually most known for, the pack-a-punch. We've now evolved past Verrückt, where the main goal is just to get power on. Now, power is just an intermediary step on the way to the main goal of unlocking the pack-a-punch machine, which, for a steep 5,000 points, the most expensive of anything in the game, would increase a gun's damage, fire rate, magazine size, just generally improve it in every way. Sometimes it would just fully change the functionality of a gun entirely, like changing the starting pistol's bullets into explosive rounds. It even reduced the ray gun's self-splash damage to take it from a dangerous gun to use to one of the best. This upgrade system was really the final piece of the puzzle for zombies. For quite a while after this, maps could be successful by just copying this exact formula and making small tweaks in different directions. The next huge revolutionary change like this would probably be the buildables introduced in Black Ops 2, which is a full 2 games away still. This formula of perks plus pack-a-punch was simple, but it was so elegant that unlike in World at War, where every map would introduce something game-changing, all 6 maps that came out for Black Ops were able to just make small changes to that core gameplay, and still be successful because that core was so strong. The reason Pack-a-Punch was such an important part of that formula was that it continued the trend started in Shinonuma of empowering the player. Instead of aiming for a full horror experience, which inherently requires making the player feel powerless, The aim of the game was now to lean more towards the power fantasy side of the equation. So, this upgrade system was an obvious choice because it empowered the player in a bunch of different ways. It made guns objectively more powerful, and in doing so, gave the player the option to choose basically whatever gun they wanted. Instead of feeling like you're forced to use the wonder weapon because it's the only gun that can damage the zombies after round 10, a lot more guns are viable, so you get the chance to choose what you want to use and express yourself through the gameplay. That personalization is really important to helping the player feel engaged in the action, as well as helping to keep the game feeling fresh after you play a bunch of games in a row and you want to change things around a bit. Some other much more minor things to note about Riese are things like the introduction of a new power-up, Carpenter. At this point, the map was already big enough that there's literally no shot that you're keeping track of all the different windows and actually trying to keep them all boarded up, so this already started its life less than useful, but it added some variety to the drops and the 200 points is nice enough. Also, this map solidified the trend started in Verrückt that all future maps would follow of some doors being permanently locked until you turned on power, as if you really needed any more encouragement when that was now how you got both perks and Pack-a-Punch. It became more just a way of keeping you focused and making sure you didn't get lost before completing the basics as maps got bigger and bigger in the future. The last iconic addition to Riese was the Monkey Bomb, a new tactical grenade that would distract every zombie on the map, helping you to get out of tight corners or revive downed teammates if you thought ahead, and it was just a fun mix of both practical use and personality. The key there is that Riese was fun. It took more from the Shinonuma school of zombies than the Nacht or Verrückt side, meaning that it loosened up a bit on trying to punish and horrify the player 24/7, and focused more on making a challenging but reasonable gameplay progression. Even Shinonuma had the mud that would slow you down in outdoor areas, which was a way that map increased the difficulty, which is fine as an idea, but the problem was that it was frustrating. It wasn't implemented in a fun way. Riese felt like it carefully took all of the good components from all the previous maps, but none of the bad or annoying parts. It really earned its spot as the climax of the first Zombies game. It felt like the developers had been honing their skills with every new map, and every one was just another huge step up in quality. So, this being the culmination of that progression, means that this is where a lot of players feel that the Zombies mode was first perfected. The gameplay and the story were both elegant early entries in their canons, making Riese still a joy to play so many years later.